Hey everybody, Q here with Driven to Failure Garage. What I'm going to be doing today is going to be a manual transmission fluid swap. Now, I think the manual in here said somewhere that it's considered to be a lifetime fluid, that you wouldn't need to change this out. But considering that I got this 5-speed out of a salvaged car in the yard that was kind of tilted down and the draining plug was loose and there was fluid seeping out of it, it could be that the fluid may have been contaminated, and also I have an unknown quantity of fluid in the transmission gearbox right now, so we're going to go ahead and just swap that out just to be on the safe side. So looking in the manual here, this is for 96 through 98 vehicles, and it said right here that the manual transmission oil that you would use is an ATF fluid. Now it says to reference the manual transmission section, but it doesn't say much more than that. Here's the quantities you would need for the M44 engine: 1.1 US quarts, and for the M52, 1.3 US quarts. Now, that being said, there's also a sticker on the side of your transmission that will further refine the required oil type. And you can see here, it's kind of hard to see, but this says MTF LT1, and this is on a Getrag 250G transmission. This one was out of a 2003 Z4. So at some point between the 98 to 2000 model year range, they swapped from using ATF to MTF, and your transmission casing will tell you which one specifically you need. So you're just looking for that yellow sticker on the side of the transmission. That being said, on the 5-speed ZF transmission that I put in Weapon Z here, came out of a 2001 Z3, and the sticker on the side of that said MTF LT2, I believe. So here's what I found: is this Valvoline MTF synchro mesh fluid, and I confirmed on the back. It's got some part numbers listed for BMW part numbers right here. If you can read that. It is the part number ending in 9031, and I just cross-referenced that to BMW's MTF LT fluids online, and those part numbers match. So we're just going to go ahead and put this in here. I got 2 quarts. As I mentioned before, I'm going to need 1.3, so I have a little bit extra left over. That being said, we're going to move on to now the draining of the fluid. You're going to want the car on level ground for draining and for checking the fluid level, because there's just a little sight glass on the side. So you'll want the transmission sitting in its natural state. So here's the fill plug, and on the bottom side is the drain plug. As mentioned in one of my previous videos, for the differential fluid change, it's always good to make sure that you can get your fill port open before opening your drain port, so that in the event that you can't get the filler open, you're not stuck with a transmission that doesn't have any fluid in it. So we're going to go ahead and jack this car up. I'm going to put the front and rear up on jack stands, and then we'll just go ahead and drain the fluid, pop the side off, and we'll just refill. Gravity feed, I think I got a hose long enough to I might feed it down through the engine compartment down to where that filler is, so we can just kind of let it flow with gravity. And we'll go ahead and get that set up. Alright, our car is up on ramps and jack stands in the front. Degree angle, pretty close to 0, and that's about what it was when it was sitting on the ground. So now we can go ahead and move forward by releasing the drain plug. Alright, looks like it is on the passenger side, right here. Oh. See it right here, and that's going to be a 17 millimeter. That little love tap. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. tight. Oh, there you go. That is all out. Now we can move on to the filler plug, or the drain plug. And as you can see, it's a little damp. It's still seeping a bit. I guess I didn't tighten it enough. We'll get the Torx back on that when we put the new stuff in. Let me get a drain pan real quick. Now, before we drain this, I did go drive the car a little bit, so it's still warm to the touch, so that'll help get some of this fluid out here a little quicker. So I'm gonna go ahead and venture to say that there was not the full amount of fluid in this transmission, because that was not 1.5 liters of transmission fluid. Now, I haven't been driving this car that much, so looking forward, I probably should have done that like before I put the transmission in here, because I had seen that the drain plug was seeping a bit, and it was sitting in that salvage car for at least, I want to say, 3 months before I got to it. Alright, so here's the drain plug. As you can see, a couple of the last threads here been either bashed. Looks like they were bashed, so they kind of closed up the thread, so it wasn't threading past that. So that could be why this lower drain plug was not sealing. So for now, I'm probably just going to put the filler plug in the drain side, since it's the same size, and then I'll just get a new fill port plug to swap that one out with after the fact. That's just so I can keep moving forward with this today. So all the fluid is drained out. Let's see how much we got here. All right, yeah. That is not 1.3 quarts. So we'll go ahead and make sure we get the right fill in there. Luckily I wasn't driving this too long, but lesson learned there. Go ahead and check that when you pull it from a salvage car. I had questioned it and I just didn't act on it. I was just too excited to drive a manual car again. Alright, so we'll put the drain plug in and start filling. Alright, plugs back in, 17 millimeter, and we're looking for 50 Newton meters on the tightening torque of this. Alright, here's the tube, and that kind of runs up through the engine compartment and up to the top side of the engine, so I could just pour the fluid in from up there rather than having to pump it from the side here. So I know approximately how much I need, so we'll go that and then a little bit more, and then we'll put the drain. So here's the tube at the top, so that should go all the way through. And then, yeah, we'll put the catch basin underneath and just start pouring it in. Alright, another little handy trick. With this setup, it's just going to be gravity fed. So you could just cut off the tip of the little nozzle on the fresh bottle, stick it in the end of that. I recommend maybe just popping a hole in the bottom of it when you get tipped upside down so air can get through and it'll drain a lot quicker. Or I just saved one of my old bottles, cut the end of it off, now it's a funnel basically. Alright, just making sure it's actually going in, it's not on the floor. Just keep dumping. So I just remembered that I had a spare transmission laying around, so I just pulled the plug out of that one and we'll just use that instead of the damaged one. Interesting note, the other spare transmission that I got that's sitting on the crate over there that I showed you earlier, that came out of a salvage LKQ like online ordering thing, so it was delivered via freight, and it does not have fluid in it either, so they drained that prior to shipping, which they probably said somewhere in the fine print, but didn't read that. So another thing to look at, I mean, any person in their right mind should probably look at their oil level prior to driving their car. Just not me, I'm an idiot. Alright, so that's all drained through. I'll push the rest of the fluid through with air, and then we'll check the level with the finger real quick, and then if it's good, we'll just tighten it up, 50 Newton meters, and then we'll be good to go. Looks like a little did. I put my finger in there, it's right at the threads, and it had just a little dribble that came down the side here, so that is at the right level. Let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Now, with this, you probably want to make sure that you're using the torque wrench to properly torque these things down, because these are aluminum, so it's really easy to strip out. That's not something you want to do. I imagine you could probably rethread this, but I don't want to. Alright, maybe someone can also, if they know, comment. Do the salvage yards prior to putting their cars in their lot, they drain all the fluids out of them? Because that appears to be what happened, and that's probably why it was loose at the salvage yard. And I'm probably the only idiot that's running their car without checking the transmission fluid first. You know, it's kind of putting the gearbox before the fluid type thing, you know what I'm saying? And that is your manual transmission fluid change, all complete. Why am I so close? That's everything complete. And from here, we'll just go ahead and drive it and see how it feels. It'll probably shift a little bit better, I'm guessing.